Alright, cool. So hi guys, thanks for stopping by today. Thanks to Strathmore, Princeton Brush, my Mary, for sponsoring this today. Just gonna be going through and doing a live demo. Gonna be painting a few skulls based on this model that I have. I just took a few pictures of it and just to get a specific lighting that I want. So this is gonna be the reference that I'm using here. And I'm gonna be painting today in gouache. I'm gonna be painting this one up here, and if there's time, I'll draw this one. I'll draw another one in graphite just so that you can see the sketching process. A little bit about myself, if you guys are new here. My name is Jordan Rhodes. I'm a recent PhD graduate for chemistry. I got back into art about 3 years ago, just as a way to relax after working in the lab all day. But yeah, now I just like to make art. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started talking about the materials. So the the paper that I'm going to be using today is this Strathmore Tone Tan Mixed Media. I'm using the 11 by 14 inch. It's pretty thick paper, 300 GSM, which means it's good for, you can use wet media on it. So watercolor and gouache. For the paint, I'm going to be using this My Mary gouache, extra fine, and for the brushes, I'm going to be using Princeton brushes, mostly the Aqua Elite. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be painting this one here, so zoom in a little bit so you can see. I'll try to have it so the chat's not blocking it. Alright, cool. So, if you guys have seen any of the time-lapse videos I post on my page, one of the first steps I always do is cover it, just the paper with a solid color. In this case, I'm going to just start off with burnt sienna, just because I want to have sort of like a warm undertone. So just go ahead and cover it here. Can you do reflected light in any color so long as Can you do reflected light in any color so long as the value is darker than the darkest shadow? That's a good question. So in terms of, basically the rule is the color, the values that are in shadow, no values that are in shadow can be brighter than any values that are in the light. If that makes any sense. So like the darkest shadow can't be brighter than any values that are directly lit. All right. Since we only have an hour, I'm gonna speed this up using a hair dryer, just so I can move on to the next. All right. So after that first layer is down, I'm gonna switch to this. The brush I used before, it was a 3/4 inch wash brush, Princeton Neptune. So the Neptune brushes hold a little bit more water than these Aqua Elite brushes. This is the one I'm going to be using next for most of the painting. It's a 1/2 inch stroke brush. So I usually like these flat brushes. It helps me like paint focusing just on planes rather than trying to go into all the details. How and when did you learn to do gouache? I learned my first gouache painting was about almost 2 years ago, and I just learned just by practicing a lot, just as much as I could. Um, so now I'm just gonna do a quick value study. So looking at the reference again, here's the skull. So I'm just gonna look at all the painting all the darkest areas I see with a slightly darker and more opaque version of this burnt sienna that's already down. Was that burnt sienna you did for the base layer? Yes. Yeah, I started with burnt sienna. Now I'm putting it on another slightly darker wash of burnt sienna. And once again, just looking for all the shadows. This is just a quick value study so I have a better understanding of the structure of the skull that I'm painting. What did you use for the undersketch? Just graphite pencil. The undersketch is this, sorry, hitting this camera. It's this HB pencil. The HB is nice because it doesn't really smear once you put water on it. I know a lot of people ask me how come the pencil doesn't really smear once you like put water on it. And two things you can do: you can use a harder lead pencil, so like HB and up. Like if you use like a 6B, it's gonna smear because it's more of a powder. But if you use a harder pencil, it's less likely to smear. So like none of the graphite smeared after I put the water down. What else? Is it better to use watered down gouache or fully opaque gouache? I'll use both actually. I'm just using gouache right now. It's watered down. And I start off with watered down gouache. And as I build up the layers, I build up the opacity as well. It makes it easier to correct your mistakes if you start off with more dilute paint, because it's much easier to cover up later on. How similar is watercolor to gouache? You can think of gouache as an opaque version of watercolor. So it's like watercolor, but it's thicker. It's easier to layer on, and you can also, with watercolor, you have to work from light to dark. Light to dark. But with gouache, you can go back and forth either way, to an extent. How is gouache? Just answered that one. What's the quality? This is artist grade gouache, so the My Mary, that's an artist grade gouache, so it's really good. The main difference between student grade and artist grade gouaches, what I've noticed is the student grades tend to be more chalky. They don't have like pure pigments. With an artist grade gouache, it will be a single pigment mostly, and it will also be not as chalky as the student grade. Do you use an easel? Yeah, I'm using a tabletop easel. So it's about at a 45-degree angle. This wooden, I'm working at about a 45-degree angle right now. What's the paper you're using? Like a watercolor series? What kind of brush am I using? I'm using this 1/2-inch stroke brush, and the paper, once again, is Strathmore Tone 10 Mixed Media. Alright. So I'm almost done with the value study. I'm going to start putting in the actual colors. Am I a full-time artist? Yeah, I'm trying to be now. I'm taking commissions actually for the first time, so if anybody's interested. When did you begin drawing? I've been drawing since I was a kid, but I've been on and off just because of school and other stuff like that. And I picked it up again seriously about 3 years ago. Commission costs, hit me up over DM or email, and I'll send you my rates. All right. Am I drawing from imagination or from picture references? I'm drawing the skull here. I took a picture of it. I took a picture of it for the lighting, but I'm drawing the skull. All right. So now I'm gonna go in with the color. So this is just yellow ochre mixed with some white. Just gonna start defining the light, sort of the planes of light that I see. So like the upper plane, that's receiving the most direct light. What did you use for the first time? Like starting out, the first thing I painted with was watercolor. I started painting with watercolor, and I slowly started switching over to gouache. I still do watercolor, just not as often as before. Are art workshops worth it for a beginner, or do you have to be good to go? I've never taken a workshop. I'd like to, but just as of now, I had to focus more on school, so I haven't had a chance to attend a workshop yet, but it'll be nice to learn more. All right. So that's one of the things about gouache. You see how I'm putting like lighter paint. With watercolor, the white comes from the white of the paper, but with gouache, you can just paint the white in with the white paint, since it's pretty opaque. While this is still dilute, it looks pretty light now, but when it dries, it's gonna not be as bright once it dries. But later on, the more thick of a paint mixture that you mix, the more opaque it will be. What do you like more, traditional art or digital? I like looking at both. I like to make traditional art probably more, but that's just because I don't really practice as much. I don't practice digital art as much, but it's still fun though. Play one of your cool songs. I'd like to, but I want to be safe, not get kicked off of Instagram Live. They've been really cracking down on that lately. Like if you play any kind of copyrighted music, they'll kick you off, and then you get banned from streaming for like 24 hours. So for this one event, I'm just gonna make sure I just be safe and not play anything. Is gouache easier to paint with than acrylic? I'm not sure. I haven't really used acrylic too extensively yet. But the main difference between gouache and acrylic is once acrylic dries, it becomes like a plastic. Like acrylic is almost a type of plastic, so it's not and you can't reactivate it with water. But with gouache, at least regular gouache, you can always come back and reactivate with water. So like, if I were to take this picture over here and just go over it with water, all this paint will like redisturb, and you can always keep blending forever, basically. But then that's the other thing; it's not as you gotta be careful to protect it. For the whole, you only use one single brush. I'm gonna use this brush for the majority of it, yes. Probably until I need to do tiny details. Then I'll switch over to a different brush. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get a lot of water effects too with using gouache, if it's dilute. So this is just more of an orange color. Cause I don't know if you can see it in the reference, but I'll show you real quick. So let's go ahead. It's kind of, oh, it got darker. Yes, orange there because like the light is shining through. It's slightly translucent, but not quite. The first thing you guys go to school for art now, for chemistry. The first thing you sketched in color. I'm not sure. In an earlier post, you used a light tracing pad. What was the name of the pad? A light tracing pad. Oh, it's called Canvas. That looks dope. Thank you. Appreciate it. I like the way you use the brush on all angles. Yeah, it really helps to not get too bogged down by all the details when you just have one flat brush. You really have to like plan which way. I usually like to do the brush strokes like along the form. So with the skull here, I like to paint like here I'll paint along the plane, sort of. Sort of follow the form, and having something 3D really helps you to understand what you're painting a lot more. So like this is the reference here. Save the live when you finish, please. Yeah, I'll try. Yeah, definitely will. Alright, it's like a cast shadow. How did you learn to manipulate the colors like that? Generic answers, just through practicing a lot. You with more experience, you just start to understand your paints and your colors a little better, and like certain effects that you can do. I don't know if you remember earlier how bright this used to be, but since it was dilute, once it dried down, it wasn't as bright as it was before. So this has a little bit more paint in the mixture, so it should dry a little bit brighter. Do you have a favorite artist? Not one. I just realized this is actually leaking. So this happens when you so that orange layer that I put down wasn't dry yet, so it just kind of leaked. Which is not a big deal because it's still pretty dilute, so I'll be able to cover that up pretty easily later. How much time do I got? I gotta speed it up a little bit. What medium did I start with? Just in general? What medium did I start drawing with in general? If that's the question, just pen and graphite, sketching. I like your art. Thank you. Do you always use watercolors, or do you use other medium? I use mostly water-based medium. So this right here is actually gouache, but I do use watercolor as well. How do you decide like you're done with a piece? I keep adding details forever. When I get to the point when I feel like I'm not really making a huge difference anymore, then that's when I kind of stop. Yeah, I don't like to work for hours and hours on end on a single piece. Is this watercolor or gouache? This is gouache. I'm gonna use the hairdryer real quick just to see how dark the white is gonna dry down to. So it might get a little bit loud. Still a little bit wet, but it's fine. All right. So one of my favorite parts is actually carving out the background. That helps to bring the subject forward, make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm just gonna mix like a sort of dark green color, like a neutral green. Go. Alright, so this is going to be a pretty opaque mixture that I'm mixing up right now. So I'm just mixing black, yellow ochre, which gives you sort of a green, and then I added a little bit of blue. Can you show us when you're mixing colors? Yeah. So this is the black that I'm mixing up right now. All right, here we go. Just gonna carve it out. For this part, you want to be careful because, I mean, you can go back and cover it up since you can just mix the gouache more opaquely, but you get a nice clean line if you get it right on the first try. Like so. What brush am I using? This is a Princeton Aqua Elite 1/2-inch stroke brush. So it's just a flat edge brush. It holds a good amount of water. Concentrate for a second. Yeah, it holds a good amount of water that you have pretty good control, but not so much that it's going everywhere, if that makes sense. Alright, so just to get a little color variation, that I'm going to switch more to a red as I go to the bottom. And that's because in the reference, I'm not painting it exactly, but I'm just like using abstract colors. So that's like the color of my table that I'm working on. Go from light to dark how do you go from dark to light if there is an accident? So if you want to paint dark over if you want to paint dark over a light, well, one of the good things about gouache is that you can go either direction. So you can go light over dark or dark over light. It's easier to. I like to start with my darks, but have them more dilute, and have my lights more opaque. The lights only show up over the darks if they're really opaque, so you have to keep that in mind. Are you working from dry paint or wet tubes? I'm working from. I squeeze the tube paint out into this palette. And this palette helps keep the paint wet for like weeks. Only problem is you want to make sure you keep it in the fridge when you're not using it, because especially now that it's in the summertime, like the paints can actually get moldy if you just leave them sitting out if they're still wet. So that's something to keep in mind. You're so chill. Do you ever feel stressed while painting? Or does it generally... Painting is relaxing for me. It's like no pressure, you know? And since it's a live stream, I pick something that I paint a lot, which is the skull. So, I'm not doing something brand new for the first time over a live stream. That would be a lot more stressful. Tips on growth. Growth comes from like understanding. So if you understand what you're painting, whether it be learning more about anatomy or learning about perspective and all that, that really helps. Then you can always like look at artists you like and try to take stuff from them. How long did it take you to develop your style? I don't know the exact timeline that, cause I didn't I tried to do Inktober a couple years ago, drawing a portrait every day, and just by drawing that many portraits, eventually, like, when I stopped trying to copy the reference exactly, I started to notice certain like tendencies that I had, and that slowly became my style. Can you show what brand of gouache you use one more time? Yeah, it's called My Mary. My Mary Extra Fine Gouache. Painting is an expensive hobby, no? It depends. It's like these paints last for a long time. A little goes a long way. Did you get nervous the first time you shared your work on social media? Yeah, actually, I didn't even want to make an Instagram account. It was my wife's idea. She actually had to sit down and make me. She made it for me actually. Like I didn't even want to post on there, and of course she was right, looking into the future. But yeah, at the time I definitely didn't want to have a social media account. So you can thank her for this. Yo, please keep this live when you start after your time. Yeah, we'll do. I'm gonna save this. Last time I did a live like a couple weeks ago, I was playing music, so I guess it didn't let me save it for whatever reason, but I should be able to save this since I'm not playing any music. What's the color? Which color? This blue? This blue color here is it's called sky blue, Celeste blue. And I just mixed it with some white. Can you guys see this? Move it over a little bit. So, gotta give that a chance to dry a bit. I guess while it's drying, I can start drawing. So I'll draw a skull down here. I'll let that dry a little bit. So I'm gonna draw it from this perspective. So to draw it, I like to start with a rectangle. So I'm gonna have it here. And I like to hold my pencil like this because it helps. You can draw using your whole shoulder instead of just your wrist, and that helps you get. You can get like nice swooping. Can you even see that? Is that dark enough? But it helps you get more swooping, like longer lines. So I'm just getting a basic silhouette. Alright, so like the skull is divided, it's like into thirds. So like the first third is from sort of the top of the head to the eyebrow line, and then the second third is from the eyebrow line to the bottom of the nose, and then the last third is from the bottom of the nose to the chin. So that's what you can use to help you get your proportions right for the skull. So it's something like this. We can see it. You can see it. Alright, something like that. And then I like to try to place like the eye socket. It's like sort of a diagonal line going from the eye socket down to the corner of the jaw. So something like that. It's the cheekbone. I gotta learn all the medical terms for these one day. I have a chart. This skull model came with a chart, but I didn't actually memorize it yet. Not that you have to draw it, but it makes talking about it. It makes you sound like you know what you're talking about when you can use the official names. But this is almost dry, so I'm gonna switch back to the painting in a second. Since I only have an hour, I have to try to switch back and forth between the two. Did you find focusing on being a chemist and an artist easy? Because the skull isn't focused, the sketch is blurred. Oh, sorry about that. I put it off to the side. You get the idea. But I'm gonna actually switch back to the painting real quick. Just so. Like that. I mean, I could leave it. It's just a sketch. It doesn't matter too much. What kind of eraser do you use? It's just a kneaded eraser. So it's just rubber, and it's good because it's flexible and you can shape it to any shape that you want. All right, so back to the painting. Now I'm gonna start working with even more opaque paint. So start putting in the dark shadows, and I'm still using that 1/2-inch flat brush, 1/2-inch stroke brush. Here. Can you do this with watercolor? Yes, you can. Maybe not on. I mean, you can use toned paper with watercolor, but then your highlights are gonna be tan. Watercolors. I like to make sure I use white paper with watercolor, and you have to. Could you leave a pic with the skull so we can practice it? Oh yeah, actually, if you go to Strathmore's page, they actually have a flyer for this event, and on that flyer it actually has a picture of the skull that you can use. I posted this picture that I'm using right now. This guy. So that's gonna be on their flyer that you can check out if you want to paint later. So yeah. Just going in, defining the darker shadows, and the paint is pretty opaque now. So this is just if you mix burnt sienna with black, you get this dark, a nice dark brown color. That's what I'm using right now. How long have you been painting for? Almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in 3 years in this summer. So I think August. I want to finish watching it, but it's 3 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, no, you definitely sleep is much more important than this. But thanks for stopping by. And yeah, I'll post it. I'll save it afterwards, and it will be on the Strathmore website as well. Thanks for sharing love your work. Thank you, I appreciate it. Could you list the palette colors you use on a regular basis? Yeah, actually the colors that I'm using now, they're also going to be on that sheet that I was talking about on Strathmore's page. So it's for this I wanted to limit the colors I use on this painting, so I'm using yellow ochre, burnt sienna, white, and sky blue, celeste blue. Where did you study? Vanderbilt, but for chemistry, not art. No, no need to apologize. No. So, may not have seen it. All right. You inspired me to try gouache. How do you like it so far? Yeah, this is gouache. Same on hooked, even though it's at 1 a.m. You guys, if it's really late, you should go to sleep. Sleep is very important. I'm gonna put a little bit of blue just to get some color variation. A little bit cool in the downward facing planes. Oh, that's too bright though. What time is it there? It is 7:39 Central Time. Does being a chemist help you make crazy colors? No, I haven't made any colors. I mean, a lot of the chemicals we used to work with, when you mix them, they didn't make a bunch of crazy colors, but you definitely don't want to paint with those. Most of the chemicals I work with are like carcinogens and stuff, so yeah, you gotta be careful with that. Heard about you through a Strathmore email. I'm so glad they put me on to your archive. Are you gonna do any workshops in Strathmore? We'll have to see. Well, yeah, I would love to, for sure. And thank you. Thanks for stopping by. A chemist. I follow your account for a long time now, and I always thought you were a designer. Yeah, no, just the chemist. How does Strathmore find you? On here through Instagram. I just started posting on Instagram, and I mostly use Strathmore paper. Are you working with in thinner washes of color? I can never tell if you go thicker with gouache. Right now I'm switching back and forth. So right now, yeah, I'm working with thinner color. Like, so this area is thicker. This is thicker. Like, all the darkest areas are thicker. But for these are all pretty opaque. I mean, dilute washes, because the color of the paper actually can do a lot of the work. Since I only have an hour, this is just a quick way to get a decent looking result. But yeah, I mean, with my portraits, I do like to go more opaque. But certain areas are opaque and certain areas are thin. Are you going to do a live like this, but drawing with portraits with Kobe's and marker? I can. Right now I'm just focused on gouache though. You sell your paintings? Yeah, I actually working on it. Just made a website, so I'm working on making a website to start selling paintings. Does chemistry help you understand the composition and quality of colors? Um, I mean, you don't need chemistry to understand that, because it actually the bar like they use certain, like on the back of the tubes they'll tell you like certain properties of the paint, like the light fastness, or which means that's how resistant to fading it is. And like chemistry, I mean, I recognize some of the chemicals that are used in the paint, like titanium oxide. Like we use that. That's used a lot with the kind of research we used to do. I like gouache. What? What made you transition from gouache to watercolor? I don't know. I just tried it out, and I liked it. I liked that I could use it on more different types of paper. With watercolor, I'm pretty picky. Like I only like to use 100% cotton paper. But with gouache, I can use different tone papers and stuff like that. Do you do any expressive calligraphy? No, I actually don't. I haven't tried it, but it seems interesting. So now I'm gonna switch to this brush for some details. It's gonna be this liner brush, size 1, Princeton Aqua Elite. So it's a thin line. I'm gonna use it to draw some of the cracks in the skull. Some of these cracks here. Not gonna go overboard, but so here we go. I'm asking because I am a watercolor artist and didn't realize gouache had on mixed media paper. Yeah, that's the thing. It actually does. Even center mixed media paper, gouache is pretty good on. Watercolor, I don't like it at all on mixed media paper. I have to use, just my personal preference. I have to use 100% cotton. But gouache, yeah, you can use mixed media paper, especially if you work opaque. Is gouache easier to work with water than watercolor? In a sense, because it's easier to correct mistakes. Because you can always just paint over your mistakes with a more opaque wash. With watercolor, you really have to be careful that you protect the white of the paper for your highlights. I mean, you can always come in with gouache if you want to, but if you want to work in just pure watercolor, you want to make sure that you protect the white of the paper. Is acrylic gouache different than what you're using? Yeah, acrylic gouache is different because when acrylic gouache dries, it's gouache. So regular gouache, it has a binder of usually it's gum arabic, which means that it can always be reactivated with water. But acrylic gouache uses acrylic binder, so just like acrylic, once it dries, it becomes really hard to reactivate with water because it has sort of a plastic film on the outermost layer of it. How much time do you have in America right now? What time is it? It is almost 8 here. Oh, I have actually 10 minutes left. Let's see, gotta speed up. Do you make drawings for your patient? I actually don't have patience. I just graduated last week, so I need to find a job. In the meantime, selling art and taking commissions. Yeah, I was supposed to graduate. I mean, I did graduate, but you know, because of this whole virus, the commencement was canceled, postponed until next year. So, yeah, it's alright. At least we have our health, right? Well, congratulate. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I might. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time to get to the teeth. I might just leave them. It's gonna have yellow teeth. Let's see what I can do. How can you draw with the time limit? I have a timer up here that I'm looking at just to keep track. Because usually when I do these live streams, I go over time because I'm not paying attention. What mixtures are you using right now? This is just black with a little bit of yellow ochre just to get sort of a cool, sort of a dark greenish color. And then I'm gonna come over with opaque highlights for the teeth. This is really dilute actually right now. So that's the thing. With gouache, like, you can always glaze. You can glaze with watered down paint to get, you know, that's what I'm doing right now. This is just, but when you're glazing, you have to make sure not to scrub too hard or else you'll disturb the paint that's already down. It's hard to split your attention when painting, though. Any more questions? What do you study? I studied chemistry. I just graduated though. It's hard to split attention when you're painting. Yeah, painting is a little bit easier to do. For me, drawing is harder to do on live because I have to like focus more. With painting, it's a little bit more automatic. Although I kind of messed this area up. If I had more time, I'll go over with opaque paint. I might just show you now. So, is there a big difference between working in acrylics and gouache? Do I do lives regularly? I'll try to do them more. I actually made a Twitch account. If anybody's on there, it's the same name, JMR Art. I haven't started streaming yet, but I'm planning to. Over there on Twitch, it's a little easier to have music and stuff. So if you want to check that out, but I can still do lives over here as well. Yeah, Twitch. Just it's like a it's an app just for live stream. It's a lot of gamers use it, but there's a lot of artists on there as well. It's by Amazon. Same name on Twitter. Yeah, JMR Art. I don't have any followers. I just made it, and I haven't promoted it yet. I was waiting to get a little bit better setup. Yeah, Peter Hans on there. All right, I have 4 minutes. Do you want to see? I can see if I can. I'll try to draw the rest of the skull down here with the last 4 minutes. Well, yeah, I'll try to draw. Would you rather see me draw the rest of this or paint the rest of this? I mean, this is almost done. I think I'll just draw. Zoom out so you can see both. Draw the sketch. Okay. Yeah, I'll draw this. Oh, paint. Draw. I see 2 draw. It's even. It's tired. Alright, I'm gonna just draw it since this is, I mean, you get the idea. Eventually it's gonna look something like this, so with this, if I probably would take like another 20 minutes and finish this up. But let's draw this really quick. All right. The teeth is gonna take a little bit too long. So when I'm drawing, I just try to not stay too long on any particular details, at least in the beginning. Just move along as fast as I can. Get like the essence of the thing that I'm drawing. And plus skulls, like I draw skulls all the time just for practice, so I kind of have it a bit memorized. This part's a little weird. How did you learn how to draw faces? I want to learn, but I don't know where to begin. You can look up Andrew Loomis. That's a good place to start. Andrew Loomis. He has a book about how to draw faces. You can actually, if you Google Andrew Loomis heads and hands PDF, you can find like a free PDF version of the book, or I mean, you should buy it too. But if you don't have any money like me, then that's a good option. Please do another video to the rest of the painting. Thanks. What time is it? A minute. Miss you too, Brax, man. I didn't get to see everybody before I got out of there. Yeah, COVID kind of messed everything up. How often do you practice other than skulls? I try to draw something every day. Even if it's just a half an hour, it's just something. It's better than nothing. Forehead's a little. Are you out of Nashville? Oh no, I'm still in Nashville. I'm still in Nashville for at least another year or so. Do you draw the skeleton too? Yeah, I draw a skeleton. That's good if you want to learn how to draw like the full body. The skeleton helps with that as well. Do you use special water like cloud fluid? Alright, so that was 55 minutes. So I got about 4 more minutes. Just to make sure I can save the screen. How's the skull looking? Do you do digital art too? Yeah, I draw on my iPad. I don't post them that much, but I mean, I draw on my iPad. I draw traditional a lot more. How often do you sharpen your brush? Sharpen my brushes? Yeah, I'm gonna save the life, yeah. So, once you have like the lines down, then you can always sharpen them there with a kneaded eraser. That's why I don't mind working fast, because you can always just come back and correct stuff. Do you have to trim the brushes and give them a haircut? No. What app do you use? Oh, Procreate for digital drawing. Procreate on iPad. That's the main one. That's the only one that I use as of right now. I'm just gonna not define the teeth. That's where the teeth would go if I had more time. Alright. Let's zoom out a little bit. See the full page. Yeah, so this is it for now. Can answer some questions for like the last minute, if you guys would like. How many pencils do you use? I've only been using this HB pencil. HB, so it's like your standard, not too light, not too dark. What else? Any other questions? Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you everybody for stopping by. I appreciate it. Do you brush your paintings, people? What are you talking about, man? Do you do line drawings of skull rather than sketching? Like here, these are. I do like a little bit of shading, but since I know I'm gonna paint over it, I just want to get the basic outline so that I know where to put the paint. Having a decent drawing definitely helps out with your painting. Like even this one up here, like it has the shape that you want, and like I mean I really didn't put that too much paint on it, and it looks kind of convincing. But yeah, this will probably another 20 minutes, and I'll probably be able to wrap this one up. Any other questions? I had to do skeletons in college. We could not sketch. Oh wow. Were you like for medical illustration or something like that? When did you start drawing? How long did it take? Oh, that's my time, guys. Just want to say thank you. Thank you for everybody for stopping by. Thank you to Strathmore, my Mary, and Princeton Brush for teaming up for this event. And I'll try to stream more often. I'm going to start streaming on Twitch as well under the same name, JMR Art, in the next couple weeks. What color did you mix for the green? Yellow ochre and black. And then you can lighten it up with a little bit of white. What else? And yeah, just thank you guys. Appreciate you stopping by. Hope this was entertaining and maybe helpful a little bit. And yeah, thank you. Gonna head out. Thanks. Just show it up close a little bit. So that's the skull. That's like a little 5-minute sketch. This is another one I'm planning to paint. Still in progress. And then I posted a time lapse of this a few posts ago. I really like the lighting on it. It's probably my favorite skull so far. But yeah. So heading out. Thank you guys.